but we wanted to thank everybody who is here for being here and joining us for this webinar with Kim Lisiak that we're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. And in fact, why don't we just jump into that? And I'm going to bring Kim and Ann, who is our Director of Alumni Affairs at Carondelet, on screen so you can see them. Everybody can wave. Hello. Hey, Kim. Hey, Ann.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today for this. We're going to do a formal introduction with everybody, but I just thought everybody should see your face and know that we're all here and that we're ready to go. So I'll ask you guys to come back on in just a couple of seconds. So thank you. So let's jump in and turn this over to Kim as fast as possible. We just have a couple of announcements. First of all, I think it's important to know who all of us are. Obviously, you came here to hear Kim, and so we'll do a formal introduction with Kim here just in a second. But my name is Chris Walsh. I'm kind of the host and the master of ceremonies here for this webinar tonight, and I am the director of the Center for Innovation at Carondelet High School, which is one of our newest facilities and that houses a number of new innovative programs at the campus. And I get selected, tapped on the shoulder every once in a while to do fun things like this as well, which I love. So I'm excited to host this webinar today and to be with all of you. And I thank all of you for taking time out of your busy lives. I know that even though we're at home, this is a crazy time and you have a lot of options for digital content. So we thank you for being here with us tonight. Along with me is my colleague, Ann Schiffenhaus, who you saw a second ago. And Ann is the head of our alumni programs at Carondelet. And she's going to come back on screen in a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit more about Kim. So in case you are new to the Carondelet community, welcome. This is a webinar sponsored by Carondelet High School in Concord, California. We are an all-girls, all-female college prep high school, Catholic high school in Concord that we've been around for over 50 years. And the last few years have seen a number of amazing innovations happen at the school, including the ability to do events like this and connect our community more together with special events, especially to our alumni. So we're excited tonight to be able to share more with you about that. But Carondelet is a very special place doing amazing things, and we want to thank all of you who are part of the Carondelet community for being with us tonight. This particular event is brought to you by the Alumni Association and all the work that Ann Schiffenhaus does. So I'm going to actually let Ann come back on here and tell you a little bit about what she's up to with the alumni, and also then introduce Kim. So come on back, Ann, whenever you're ready. I'm going to stop sharing there. Hold on. Let me bring Ann up here. There you are. Hello.
Sure. Hi. Thank you very much. For those that I haven't met before, my name is Ann Schiffenhaus. I graduated Carondelet in 1986, a long time ago. But in my role, I'm Director of Alumni Relations, so my whole purpose is to reach out to our 10,000 alumni and get them engaged and interested, be it locally on campus or wherever they live in the world, with other alumni, college students in their area, and just, build the relationships that can help them all the way through life. So one of the relationships I've reached out to and gotten to know is Kim, and she's offered to do this webinar tonight, so I'd like to tell you a little bit about her. So Kim currently is Director of Leadership Development at Lippert Components, and if you don't know Lippert Components, you will. They're the world's leading supplier of high-tech recreational vehicles. She serves as a leadership coach, trainer, and trusted advisor to develop leaders from the front line to executives. Prior to Lippert Components, Kim spent several years at Cancer Treatment Centers of America as Chief of Staff. Early on in her career, Kim focused her efforts on operational excellence and continuous improvement, earning her Lean Six Sigma Black Belt at Villanova University. Her passion for leadership development was initially inspired through years as a high-level gymnast and then as an NCAA Division I varsity diver at the University of Notre Dame. She continued on in her leadership pursuit to earn a master's degree in leadership from St. Mary's College right here in Moraga. Now, as a corporate athlete, Kim's own pursuit of self-awareness and balance and success transformed into her life's work of helping leaders build awareness, find balance, and achieve their own definition of success. Of course, she's from the Bay Area. Her parents are still here, but she's far away. But Kim's faith and family are the core drivers of her life's work. She practiced her own internal leadership by filling her cup with prayers and exercise and philanthropy. And we're so happy that she offered to share her thoughts and her experiences and her advice with all of us today. So without further ado, Kim Lisiak.
Thank you so much, Ann, and thank you all for spending your Thursday evening, a little happy hour for everyone here. Chris, if it's okay, I'm sharing my screen now, I believe, right?
Give me 1 second. I just want to remind people something I forgot to mention as you get set up there, Kim, is that end of Kim's presentation, we are going to have a Q&A session. And so if you want to ask a question of Kim, then please put that under Q&A. You'll see down below a big Q&A button. Put all your questions there, and then at the end we will let you, one of us will ask that question for you. So that's where they go. And if you have any questions at all for us, technical issues, you can put those in Q&A. And I'm going to go off screen here. We're going to bring Kim right back. Hold on, Kim, you're not on, so give me a second.
Can you see my screen? Are we good?
Yep, you are all set. You are all ready to go. We can see you and your screen, but
Fabulous.
We need to take you off of mute. It's all yours, Kim.
Great. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking your Thursday to spend the happy hour with me here today. One of the things that I'd like to mention before we get started, if you just go grab a paper and a pen, we're actually going to do a little bit of self-reflection today, because we know as an adult learning theory that we learn best, especially as adults, or even if you're in your teenage years and attending today, we learn best by actually experiencing the learning and actually applying it to your own life. So I ask that you do that. Grab a pen or even just take notes maybe on your phone or something. One thing that I'd like to mention too, Chris, if we could put up that poll, I'd love to know who we have in the audience today. The first poll, it has a question there around who do we have? Are you a Carondelet alum, a Carondelet student, parent, family member, or friend of Carondelet, just so I can make sure that I'm tailoring our presentation today to the right people. So while he's getting that up, I see the poll is live. I will vote myself and would love to see what the results are here.
We just have a couple more people still voting, so we'll give you another 15 seconds or so.
Perfect. And while they do that, I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about today, just ground us in what our topic for today. Ann did a beautiful job of sharing a little bit about Lippert, but I thought I'd share with you what Lippert actually does. We are the largest supplier of components to RV, residential housing, bus, equestrian trailer, marine, rail, train, heavy truck. So we do anything basically on wheels that's commercial. And we have 70 facilities globally throughout the United States, Canada, Ireland, Italy, and the UK. And the specific academy, so you see in the bottom right-hand corner here, Lippert Academy for Leadership, is this really awesome concept that we came up with to help serve and facilitate growth in leadership and organizational maturity for our internal organization, but also the external organization and customers and competitors. So we actually serve as a way to help raise the talent of the industry at large. And so our leadership and culture development team helps bring our core values and leader qualities to life. So these are our core values here, and I will stop. Who do we have here in this session today?
Here you go.
All right, so 57 parents, great, and 33% alumni and friends, great, thank you. I'm so glad we have you here. Thank you for joining. I am very excited to share with you one of our core values is caring about people, which Lippert is defined as expressing both the awareness of and empathy for the human condition through thoughtful action. And so every training that we do, we always align it back to one of our core values in order to stay grounded in our identity. Very much like Carondelet prepares young women to live with heart, faith, courage, and excellence, we do the same thing in the business world. And so just as they say in an airplane, should an event occur, please place your face mask on before you help others. We find it necessary to do the same when it comes to the storms of life. We need to make sure that we're filling up our cups or we're managing our own stress levels so that we can help and serve our families, our friends, the people we love, and those folks at work. And at LCI, we have this hashtag that we spread around, everyone matters, hashtag everyone matters, and hashtag business as a force for good. We really believe that business can be a force for good, which is one of the reasons I'm so grateful that we were able to make this partnership work today and bring some great content to you. So, because we want to leave you feeling happier and healthier today, I thought I'd get started just to talk a little bit about the storms of life. This training was specifically designed for our people in every level of our organization, from frontline team member up to the chief executive, to navigate the storms of life, and in particular COVID-19 and all the stressors and experiences that we're facing right now. And so today we're going to talk specifically about living and leading through the storms of life as a parent, as a sister, brother, as a child, however, whatever role that you play in your life, we're going to really talk about that. And I hope you get 3 takeaways from today. The first one is, what are the storms of life? The second one, what storms am I facing right now? And the third, how do I deal with these storms? So let's start with, what are the storms of life? The 5 main storms of life generally fall into these categories: marriage and relationship, money and finance, job and employment, health and wellness, and family. So around the marriage and relationship, that could be anything from a small little storm to a huge storm, right? Different parenting philosophies, differing schedules, maybe different work schedules, children's different schedules. Now we're coworkers at home a little bit. Maybe you're now the administrative assistant to the world's smallest CEO if you have little children and you have to teach them how to use Zoom or the computer. Some of the challenges in money might be paying tuition for your children, or your retirement accounts as the industry is kind of fluctuated. And in the job and employment world, maybe there are some leadership changes, or you've experienced job loss in your family, potentially have started a new role and working completely virtually in this world that we're in. Or maybe now that you are still in the company that you're in, you're wearing multiple hats because there are less people. Those are some examples of job and employment. In the health and wellness area, people who are experiencing any of the COVID-19 symptoms, or maybe some mental health issues. I know those have spiked in the home front as well as heart disease, cancer, arthritis, knee, hip replacements, or something like that. Those are examples of health and wellness issues. And then of course, family, that could be as the idea that I don't even get a chance to talk to my family, or I can't see my family right now because I'm social distancing, or maybe my car is on its last legs and we can't travel to the places we need to get groceries, or maybe there's just some tiffs at the home space with our children, asking them to do their homework, or perhaps wanting to make sure that they finish the year strong and all they want to do is be outside in the sun, or watch the next Netflix binge watching TV episode or something. And so what's interesting, I usually train to all different kinds of people and from all different walks of life. And what's fascinating to me is every person you know is experiencing at least one of these 5 storms at any given time. And I would say now more than ever, you're probably experiencing even more than one of these storms. And so this is a little bit of time for reflection. What storms are you going through? If you don't mind bringing up poll number 2 here, I'd love to let's vote. You can click on more than one. Of all of these, what of the different storms are you facing? And it's okay. Maybe it's a little light rain, maybe it's a thunderstorm, a hurricane in your life right now, and it's just overwhelming. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to do with it. And I encourage you to select and vote here. And I also encourage you to maybe jot those categories down that you're really feeling it right now. I'm going to do the same. All right. I submitted my results there and excited to see what happens. Just know that you're not alone if you're facing some of these storms. I read a white paper earlier, I think a couple of weeks ago, and it was saying how naturally in relationships, you probably have some differing values or differing opinions on certain things, whether it be, you know, a parent relationship or a significant other relationship, or even relationships with coworkers. But now that we are totally confined to a space where we're not really leaving the home front, those relationships in the family and marriage and relationship and the marriages specifically actually have spiked like almost 10 times those issues, because we're actually spending 10 times more amount of the time being with each other. And so what you might only have bickered a little bit about of what the groceries might look like, or how we're going to pay that bill or the mortgage at the end of the month, only once a month, now we might sort of butt heads a little bit more every single day. So know that these storms maybe have spiked even that much more because we have concentrated amount of time with each other. All right, so we've got some really great results here. I know it sounds funny when I say that, but what it makes me feel like is we're not alone, right? We've got 30% of people experiencing a little bit of marriage and relationship challenges. 40% of people are experiencing a little bit of money and financial issues. 40% might have a job or employment challenges. 50% are experiencing health and wellness issues, and 60% are experiencing family issues, which seems like the winner here at 60%. So thank you so much for sharing that, being authentic with us today. That really helps me as we travel through our training today. So as I mentioned, we are in this together, and just know that you're not alone. And also remember, if you are experiencing these storms, and all of the people, the lovely people we have on the webinar today are also experiencing these storms, you better bet your I forget the word, like bottom dollar, whatever the saying is there, that the people in your family or the people in your neighborhood or the people that you work with in your organization, or even perhaps your grocer, right? They might be a little bit shorter. They might be feeling a little bit more stressed. And so we, hopefully this information gives you eyes to see them as delicate human beings, giving everyone, extending a little bit more grace than usual right now because it's stressful, what we're experiencing right now. And it's easy to forget that we're not just on an island feeling the things that we're feeling, especially when we're experiencing heightened levels of stress. So I thought I would walk you through this really awesome framework that I learned about based off of a great book I highly recommend if you want to jot this down. It's called Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes by William Bridges. He talks about how there are 3 parts of the change cycle. And so what does change really mean? It means any sort of stressor in your life that comes to you unplanned. That could be a change in your heart, a change in your mind, a change in your soul, a change in your experience, change in reality, right? So now we're maybe confined to a space in your house, or maybe you're working from home and you used to work out and about in the world, no longer driving anymore, maybe your gym is closed. All of these things serve as changes, and these changes are disorienting, very disorienting. And disorientation, sometimes that process can take a very long time and lead up to this, what we would call the neutral zone down here at the bottom. Once we get through those first 2 parts of the stages, that reorientation is just a tad bit easier. But we're going to spend time today on that disorientation, what to do with disorientation. Because oftentimes what ends up happening is we lose a little bit of our identity. We sometimes identify ourselves by the things that we do and the relationships that we have and how strong they are. And when I go through a disorienting change or stressor, everything gets sort of muddy and I don't quite understand what's going on, and I get a little bit more stressed in how I respond. And being able to claim back parts of our identity is one of the best ways to manage change or manage crisis fatigue long term. And so let's talk about the heightened effects of stress on the brain. We like to anchor all of our material in brain science here. So high levels of stress from change or crisis fatigue cause a specific part of the brain to begin a process that results in a release of chemicals in the brain that prepare your body to handle danger. So this is something that's an archaic part of our body that is actually really good. It keeps us safe. However, it also gets triggered when danger or change or maybe just something is different in our lives that we weren't used to or we weren't planning. And so when your brain goes into hyperdrive and handling too much stress over time, our brain begins to malfunction. And so we forget things, you lose things, you can't concentrate, you lose your willpower and indulge in some maybe not so great habits, such as drinking in excess or smoking or perhaps eating too much. You also, and this is really important, you also lose your willpower with word choice. Like you lose the filter to say, you know what, this might not be the best version of myself right now, so I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. And then I feel bad about it. I feel guilty immediately after because I'm so stressed. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to say it. And I don't care who's feeling it, right? This actually affects our emotions as well. Why is that? Well, every human being has an innate need for control. So when we have control, we feel things like happiness, calmness, satisfaction, peace, okay? When we do not have control, we feel things like worry, anxiety, stress, fear. And a challenge with these storms, specifically in these categories I mentioned, is that they come unannounced and unplanned. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we know the storm is coming, but most of the time they come and we're just not ready for them. And this feeling out of control, not having planned it, I don't know what to do next, leads our brain into this FFF activation. So this is called the fight, flight, or freeze stress response. So what ends up happening, like I mentioned before, the brain kind of goes a little bit crazy and it just desires a need to control the environment. So these emotions are real. So I'd love to check in with you and just see, you know, what are some of those emotions that we're facing right now? If you wouldn't mind putting up poll number 3, that would be great. Just check in. Let's see how we're doing. I gave a lot of different ones in here that are part of that list that I just mentioned. Happiness, calmness, satisfaction, peace, worry, anxiety, stress, fear, guilt, anger. Go ahead and vote for however many that you're feeling right now. And I'm going to do the same. All right. The beauty of this, and something that I should mention, the more we grow in the awareness of all of the things that we're feeling and seeing, the less power they have over us. So as we continue to do a little bit of reflection, you'll just notice, hey, this is actually taking over parts of me that I don't really feel good about. So what can I do about it? We're going to talk about that in just a second. Let's see what results we have coming in. All right, high levels of stress at 71%. Let's see, next up we've got high levels of anxiety as well at 59%. And then maybe third there would be worry, and people are still feeling a little bit happy, which is great. Thank you so much for voting there. All right, so let's continue here. Okay, so what can we actually do about these storms? You showed up because you care and you want to do something about it, right? The storms that we are facing really hold a lot of power, like I said. And it's easy to feel as if things are out of our control as we navigate this crazy world around us with all these new rules, all of these group norms, all of the societal differences. And so let's dive into what we can do about it. Here's what we know about the science between thoughts and emotions, okay? Our thoughts affect our emotions, and our emotions affect the body's response. So they actually trigger in your body things like heart rate, muscle tension, your visual field, your hormonal responses. And ultimately, it's how our bodies impact our performance or our behavior. And so what's interesting, oftentimes we feel like, well, I'm just emotional, I'm just angry, or I'm just upset, or I'm stressed, or I'm fearful. But really, there was a thought before that caused the emotion. And the challenge is to choose the right thoughts at the right time to make sure we're setting up the process to be the best version of ourselves. So I have a quick little example and I'll move forward. For example, if I enjoy golf, okay? If I enjoy golf and I get to a really, really hard hole, and I look out and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are 2 sand traps and there's the water right there. I hope I don't make it into the water. That's all I say. Okay, I hope I don't make it into water, but I'm focused on the hole. I'm gonna hit my shot towards that hole. What that does to my thoughts then leads to certain emotions in my mind, right? Of fear, worry, anxiety. Then my body's response is I might get a little bit clammy. I start paying a little bit more attention to the water there, or maybe the sand traps, the things that are in the way, and I don't pay attention to really what I need to do, which is that hole, right? That leads to my behavior. So here's a freebie, golfers: never think, don't hit it in the water, because that's where your brain goes, right? Think about hit it into the hole, right? Like, focus our minds there. Very simple ways to accomplish control. And I know that's a little bit silly, but the same thing happens in, for example, an interview. So perhaps you're looking for a new job. And as I'm getting ready to interview, the thoughts in my brain, if I think, whew, I am nervous. I hope they like me. I hope I don't stutter, right? I hope I don't forget my words. That leads to the emotion of nervousness, fear, stress, and the body's response of clamminess. Maybe my central nervous system starts to get shaky. And if I was in person, I would shake the hands. They'd feel the clamminess, right? They'd sense my nervousness, and it actually affects the behavior and the outcome of that experience. So we have to be really, really careful with what thoughts we have. Well, Kim, that's great, but I sometimes don't feel like I can control my thoughts. What do we do? Well, it's a 3-step process. Step 1 is awareness. So all we can do is just start with paying attention to where our thoughts go, excuse me. Step 2 is actually choosing to surrender that thought if it's not productive, or it's not in the direction of the goal or the way of being that you'd like to be, or if you want to be the best version of yourself, and make decision to let go of that storm that you cannot control, or let go of the behavior of the other person that you cannot control, right? And then step 3 is to focus. Choose to place your attention on the things you can control. So what I'd love for you to do on that piece of paper that I had you grab right before we got started, step 1 is awareness. We need to pay attention to where our thoughts go. I would love for you to draw 2 circles on your piece of paper. And when you're ready, at the top, let's write what's in my control and what do I not have full control over. So what's in my control and what do I not have full control over? And so what I'd like for you to do in all of those different storms that you just voted on, marriage and relationship, job and employment, money, finance, right? Any of the ones that we just mentioned, I want you to choose one. Maybe that's taking all of your mental energy right now. It's taking 80% of your time. Maybe it's affecting how you sleep. It's affecting your natural chore cycle, or maybe it's affecting the peace in your home. Okay, I want you to write down that one thing, and let's grow an awareness of that one tonight, okay? So in that what's in my control circle, let's write down as much as we can about what's in my control about that specific storm. And let's have a goal to get at least 3 to 5 things listed there around what's in my control. Some examples: your attitude, right? Your behavior, your thoughts, your energy, your effort, right? Some of these things are in my control. So as you take time doing that, I'll just stop here for a second, give you about 5 to 25 seconds or so. What is in your control with this specific storm? Maybe it's your interaction, your ability to love, your ability to prioritize. Okay. Once you've gotten those listed on that second circle, I'd love for you to fill out, what do I not have full control over? This list is a little bit, I would say, easier, but also it's a little bit harder, because once you start writing these things down, you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't have any control over the government's decisions or how long they're going to keep us with specific COVID standards, right? I can't control what my organization chooses to do with all the jobs. Maybe I'm in a higher level of position in my role and I can influence decisions, but at the end of the day, it's the CEO's decision, right? What else do I not have full control over? I don't have control over other people's behavior. No matter how hard I try, I really can't do that because they're a person themselves, right? They make the decision on their own behavior. And if I'm a parent, I can coach and teach and train our children on what kinds of good wholehearted children might be. But at the end of the day, they make their decision, right? So I can't actually have full control over the decisions that they make and the priorities that they have. I can help influence them, but I do not have full control over them. So I'd love for you to get 3 to 5 things in that circle as well. And when we're ready, step 1 is awareness, right? So growing just in awareness can really help take away all of that power that we were talking a little bit about before. Sometimes we feel like these storms are just too much and I can't handle it and I don't know what to do with it because there's too many of them and I don't have any power. I feel like I don't have any control. But growing in awareness of what I have in my control about this storm and what I do not have full control over, it makes life a little bit easier because specifically I work in the world of manufacturing. We really care about efficiency. Why would I spend 80% of my time being so mad at the government's decisions when I do not have full control over them, right? Or why, so really being able to put that into perspective takes a lot of power away from the energy that I'm placing on something I can't control, okay? Step 2 is surrender. So looking at that second circle, what do I not have full control over, is making the decision to surrender and let go of the things you cannot control. This is probably the most challenging part of the exercise because it means letting go of these unproductive efforts, which are probably habits that we've created over time to control the uncontrollable. Right? Letting go of the uncontrollable. Like I literally have no say if I have a child who just got their license and they're 16 years old and I've made sure that they learned how to drive appropriately and I know that they can drive really safely on the freeway. But that first time that they go out and drive by themselves because they've gotten their license, I do not have control over that. I just have to trust that I taught them to the best of my ability, right? I do not have control that to know that if they're going to slow down right before that stop sign and stop fully. I just don't have that control. So I have to trust that I gave as much coaching and shared my knowledge as much as possible around the safety practices of driving a car, and letting go of that unproductive effort to control the uncontrollable, being mindful of, I just need to surrender that. It involves accepting that there's nothing I can do to change what's not in my control. Literally, there's nothing. I cannot do anything once the car is driving and he's on his way. I probably shouldn't call him, especially as a new driver, because that will distract him. So surrendering means making the decision to let go of the things you cannot control and focus on the things you can. So what if letting go is still a challenge for you? I will not walk you through in a reflection on these today, but we'll make sure that you can have access to these journal questions for later. But thinking through some of these questions, such as what is preventing you from letting go initially, right? What would it be like to fully surrender to the uncontrollable? I get a lot of answers. That's really scary. I need to be in control. I need to know that my children are safe, right? Can you recall a time where you were able to let go and surrender? That one's really helpful because if I'm able to go back into the Rolodex of my brain and say, oh, I totally had to surrender there because I was forced to, but I felt really good about it. What helped me surrender there and let go? And can I repeat that right now? Because right now this is so unproductive for my time to be worrying so much about what's out of my control. And we have 2 other questions here, but I'll go to that last one. What steps can you take to surrender more to the uncontrollable? So if we take to our past and think about times we've surrendered before, oftentimes we can repeat some of those tactics that we used before. All right, and step 3 here is focus. Place attention on the things you can control. So in the world of brain science, we call this attentional control. And so here's a nice list for you on the things that are in your control: your thoughts, your words, your actions, your behaviors, your attitudes, body language, right? If I'm really, really upset and I walk into the room and I'm like this to my children, do you think that they're going to come to me with love? Probably not. But if I kind of stay a little bit more relaxed and just say, hey, what's up? And try to lean into the conversation in a little bit different way, I might be able to engage them, because this is really interesting. The body has two energy systems, right? We have the heart energy system and the head energy system. The heart energy system actually radiates 10 feet around me. So regardless of if I'm, if I'm in this room and I walk into the next room and there's somebody in there, they'll sense my presence, even if they don't know that I'm behind them. They'll feel the energy that actually walks into the room. The head energy only radiates about a foot. So you maybe when you're cuddling with your significant other at nighttime, you might feel the head energy, but really you'll feel the heart energy more than anything. And so the perfect example is, if you've ever been in an elevator and you walk into an elevator and there's somebody in there already, but you don't know them, you've never met them before, but you feel this tension and you feel like you could cut that tension with a knife and you have no idea what's going on. And so some of us that are try to be a little bit sunshine to other people's day, we might say, hi, how you doing? There are some people that don't even want to go there because you can tell that there's like tension, and I personally want to break it and I want to make them feel happier, but I can feel that tension. That's that heart energy that you're feeling in them. And this is an actual scientific fact that we emit certain kinds of energy, whether it be positive or negative, and it can actually affect the people around you. So my body language is one way that people perceive that energy, but you can also feel it regardless. You also can see in here in my control is my effort, my feelings, my reactions, my ideas, my decisions. And so we have to be very, very careful. Like I shared before, thoughts come first, then the emotions, right? So we have to be mindful of that thought. Okay, Kim, I'm trying really hard to be compassionate and loving to my family. Maybe I'm having challenges at home to make sure that my kiddos are actually doing their schoolwork when they really just want to be on summer. Or maybe they're spending all day, even though it's beautiful outside, they're spending all day on the computer, playing video games or something that I really wish I just hadn't provided for them in long term, and it's just getting on my nerves. What do I do about that? Every time I walk in there, all of a sudden I just get angry. What do I do with that? Well, let's take a step back. Look at that first thought that went into your brain. Was it, oh no, not this again? Or they're never going to change? Or whatever that thought is, we can't often control that first thought, but we can control the second. Okay? So let's change that first thought to, he's going to be open today to a conversation, right? Let's direct it to the outcome we like. So when we were using that golf example, right? I'm going to hit this towards the hole, not, I hope I don't land in the water, right? We need to direct our thoughts towards the direction of what we'd like the outcome to look like, especially as parents, especially in young adulthood. If you're working at work, sometimes we think about all the things that might go wrong, and so that actually comes out in our word choice as well. So we have to be really mindful. We don't always get to choose the first thought, but we get to choose the second. And so one thing that I also thought might be really practical to share with you, here are a few additional things you can do to help manage the storms. We talked a lot about attentional control, the 3-step process of awareness, surrender, and focus, really managing that first thought, right? Seeing what we can do with it and changing it. But here's some really pragmatic, practical ones for you to take away with you. Feel free to jot these down too. Step 1. Limit the news and social media. I know this is very hard to do. A lot of different phones right now, you have the ability to actually look at those and put your own sort of timers on them, right? So I have timers on every single external thing that I have, because what ends up happening is our brains get a dopamine hit every single time we see something that is exciting or scary or challenging. We get this sort of like rush, and you get addicted to it in the same way you would get addicted to eating more candy or spending time on video games, right? Or being over drinking and over excessive amount of alcohol, right? The same sort of thing is happening when we see the news and social media. So one of the best practices that I've been sharing across my company is balance staying informed and the constant minute-by-minute updates, which causes additional stress. So if you're already living in a stressful household, if I continue to watch the news throughout the day and see the different numbers and the new changes and the new symptoms that are out there, or the numbers across the world, and I don't give myself a break, I'll be at my wit's end before 2 o'clock, because I have not given my body a break to actually lower my levels of stress. And so, of course, when I step in to talk to my family, I might not be the best version of myself. So the best practice here is give yourself 2 slots of during the day, maybe right when you wake up in the morning or right before you start work. Give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to look at the news and social media. And be very mindful, put a timer on, be very mindful to turn that off. And then go about your day. Then give yourself maybe right at the end of the workday, or perhaps right before dinner or something, but not in the evening. Give yourself maybe 5 or 10 minutes to do the same. I call that like the bookend of information. When we start looking at that kind of information right before bed, our brains are very colorful. And so if I see some images or I see scary information, we actually, and you probably have seen, I don't know if you've seen a lot of articles, but I've certainly seen a lot of articles that there's an increase in pandemic dreams right now because people are taking in all this information right before they go to bed, scrolling on their phones, and then actually like internalizing it, and the subconscious is bringing it out, and it's affecting and disrupting our sleep. And the sleep is so important for us to actually be able to recharge and reset for the day. So bookend your news and social media in very intentional moments, and I would encourage you to share that with your family as well. Focus on the positive. Number 2 here. Having a positive mindset and practicing gratitude can truly make you feel better. And so one of the family tactics I've actually shared across all of our executives, the majority of our middle layer of our leadership, people all know that this is the Kim thing. Having a round robin at the dinner table to talk through, what was the best part of your day today? What are you grateful for outside of COVID? What are you grateful for inside of COVID? And how did you help someone today? Or maybe how did somebody help you? And being able to actually do the round robin, sitting down, thinking about these things. People who practice gratitude are 25% more likely to experience happiness. So we have to make it a habit. We have to practice it. Even if we're just naturally pessimistic or optimistic or realistic, right? We have to be mindful that this actually has a lot of power over our happiness. And so I like to share this stat. 100% of our happiness is made up of 3 things. The first 10% of happiness is made up of genetics. So I am genetically predisposed to optimism, pessimism, realism. That's just kind of how it is. The second 10% is your external environment. So I am influenced by the external environment that I've brought up in. So if I'm brought up in a very stressful household with a lot of negativity, that's probably going to color my lens in a certain way, as if you would use a filter on social media to have certain coloring, right? Guess what the last 80% is? Based off the training today, you might get this. It's actually choice. We have 80% choice about to choose our happiness, right? And so that all stems back to what I just shared. We have the ability to change our thoughts, which affect our emotions, which affect our body's response, and ultimately our behavior. So I don't take that lightly, which is why I really advocate for practicing gratitude regularly, because it affects just everything that we do. And it colors our world in a very specific way so that we're able to be realistic, but also be grateful for the blessings that we do have. This next one here, connect with nature. Focusing on nature can help calm and recenter ourselves. So keep an eye out. We play a lot of like I Spy, or especially since the visual cues have not been changing very much. We get really excited if we see a cardinal fly by or a bunny, specifically here in Indiana. We get a lot of those cottontail bunnies, so perhaps there's a deer outside or something. Just being mindful and trying to be present. I love to practice what's considered 5 senses presencing. So we have 5 senses. God has gifted us with 5 senses, and there's a really great walking meditation you can do with your family. You just walk, as you walk outside with your family, of course, socially distancing is appropriate. Walk through the five senses. How many things can you hear? How many things can you see? How many things can you smell right now? How many things are you touching, like literally feeling on your body? I can feel my shirt. I can feel my rings. I can feel my shoes, right? And then the last one, what is that last taste in your mouth? What did you experience? Maybe it's a pretzel that you ate earlier before you went on the walk. These things can really take the stress level from high back down to present, because stress and anxiety does not happen in the present. Stress and anxiety happens when I think about the past and I compare about the past. It also leads to depression. And stress and anxiety also increases when I'm thinking about the future. But when I'm in the present, I have no space or time for those kinds of emotions because I'm fully here. And so highly recommend that the five senses meditation walk out in nature. This fourth one, take deep breaths. Concentrate on your breathing and let the stressful moments pass. So this one's actually quite funny. One of my team members has named this little tactic as the potty squat. I'm so sorry about that language, but she uses it because she has a really young baby and she doesn't get any time to herself unless she's in the bathroom. And so taking deep breaths can actually be really good in a very short period of time. So for example, if any of us had an on-off restart button like we do on our cell phones, it would be this. If you spend with your eyes closed or even just focusing on something for 60 to 90 seconds, breathing in through the belly and holding, and then out through the mouth. Okay, breathing in, hold, and out through the mouth for 60 to 90 seconds, you can actually reboot your entire central nervous system. So all the anger, all the frustration, all the shakiness, maybe right before an interview, or you're just really fed up with a specific conversation that happened at home, or maybe you're triggered by an email at work, being able to just spend 60 to 90 seconds can reset everything. And it actually kind of feels like a mini nap. So the reason she talks about it as the potty squat, because she literally just does it in the bathroom, even though she doesn't have to go to the bathroom. She just needs her time, and her little toddler respects it when mommy has to go to the potty. But she gets 60 to 90 seconds for that. She'll put a little timer on her phone and just sit there and breathe in through the belly, hold, and breathe out. And it is our reboot button. All right, this next one, stay active. Physical activity keeps the blood flowing and reduces stress. A short walk outside can do wonders for boosting one's mood. So I know a lot of our gyms are closed. Maybe some of our natural workout behaviors are sort of just not as enticing. Maybe we don't want to be outside as much, or maybe you have a ton of time working out. So kudos to you. But it's sometimes a chore to just get out and go on a walk, right? So I've found that gamifying it with yourself, which basically means giving yourself a challenge with it. So, but something you're excited about. So find a really good book on tape, and only allow yourself to listen to it when you're on your walk, or when you're working out, or when you're moving around the house doing chores, because then it gets you really excited to do that thing that you're probably avoiding right now because it's just, you don't have time for it, right? Or it's too stressful, or I don't have the energy, right? So I like to gamify it just a little bit because it excites me a little bit more about actually doing the thing that I want to do. And I really want to listen to the book, but I'm not allowed to unless I'm walking. So I'm going to go walk, even if I need to be carrying my kid with me, right? The last one, and this one's really hard right now, but claim normalcy, all right? Keep your routine as normal as possible. And that word's kind of hard right now. So what I'd love for you to do, I want you to think about a stressless week pre-quarantine, pre-COVID, and I want you to write down maybe the top 5 things that you would normally have done in a week, either to help manage your stress or just normal chores around the house. Let's just write down all of those things, whether it be doing the laundry, putting all the dishes in the dishwasher, doing the dishes yourself, putting them all away, making your bed, spending 15 minutes in prayer or meditation. Maybe you always did family dinners. Maybe you always did family dinners with extended family regularly all the time, and that's missing in your life right now. I want you to just write down 5, at least 5, I'm sure there are more, 5 things that you would do in a stressless week, pre-COVID, pre-quarantine, just normal self, and let's get that list down. Then what I would like for you to do as you're writing that list, I'd like for you to circle the ones that you've done this week. Circle the ones that you've done this week. Okay. And I would like for you to put a little box next to the ones that you haven't. Okay, Kim, this is great, but I actually can't go see my extended family. We are social distancing. We're practicing that because it's healthy for the community, right? What can I do? So I've seen a lot of people get really creative with something like that. Putting, you know, a FaceTime call at dinner, and you're both cooking the same meal. You've shared the meal ahead of time, right? You all get the same ingredients and you cook together. If you're the main cook, maybe you can have them on FaceTime while you're cooking as if you would normally be cooking together, and then place the video up on the table and enjoy a dinner together. Another one I've heard is my gym's closed, and I only am motivated when I'm working out with other people. I know many of us might be feeling Zoom fatigue or video fatigue or whatever, but actually practicing workouts with other people live over the video has actually been proven to keep people as more motivated. So if you're either you're with other people working out, or you're listening to music at a certain beats per minute, it actually keeps you engaged and focused, right? Our gym's closed. I don't really have a whole lot of workout equipment, but I do have 2 really heavy cast iron pans. So we've decided that those are the things that we're going to be using to lift heavy things, to be able to lift weights. It's literally all I have. Maybe you can use your child to lift and get some good arm abilities, or maybe even just do some squats or that sort of thing, wall sits, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's one of our way to claim normalcy when we really don't have access to the things that we normally do. So whatever you have boxes on right now, don't let those things slide if they were really important to you. See if there's a creative way to flip it around and be accessible right now. So I know we're getting really close to time here. I hear about 3 takeaways for today. I hope you were able to walk through what the storms of life were. What storms are you facing? Recognizing that you and your family and your children and your parents, we're all facing this right now. Have you talked to them? Have you asked them, hey, how are you doing with this specific thing? Oftentimes when we get really, really stressed in the home space, we forget to step outside of ourselves a little bit because we just get triggered by everything. But just in hearing some of the other things going on in the world actually helps us increase in our compassion and our empathy. And then the last takeaway here is, how do I actually deal with these storms? We walk through the 3-step process: awareness, surrender, and focus. And then we have several different ideas here on things you can actually do practically to make sure we can manage our stress, manage the change fatigue, and get back out of that disorienting part of the cycle and like get reoriented into this new norm. That might not be normal forever, but it's a temporary normal, right? And so with that, here are a few little additional resources for you. I love the Myers-Briggs. We use it as a personality assessment at work. It is basically helps people understand themselves a little bit better. When we grow in awareness, we grow in awareness of the things that maybe are having power over us or our blind spots. This first article is fabulous about how each personality type actually reacts to stress, and how I actually, being the other person, not the person that has that personality type, but the other person, what I can do to help them in that moment. This is really awesome. If you've never taken a Myers-Briggs personality test, there's a really great simple version of it on 16personalities.com. So 16 personalities, so plural, personalities.com. Free test. Great information for parents. There was an article that just came back around my personality type that actually talked about my relationship with significant others and with parents and what that would look like. I will make sure to type that in somewhere, but it's www.16personalities.com if you want to take your Myers-Briggs. And here's a really great way to actually learn more about do it as a family activity. Have everybody do this. Also look into the 5 love languages. If you've never heard of that book before, there's a free assessment online. It's a great marriage and family tool. Oftentimes tension in families or tension in relationships fail because we're not living and leading into the love language of the people around us, right? We're expecting a certain thing and we're not receiving it. We're also not giving what they need, but we don't know what they need. I highly encourage you to look at the 5 love languages. There's also several other things in here. I will leave this up just for another second or two. Some great TED Talks. The vice president of our leadership and culture development did a TED Talk here called Dare to Think Like a Champion Today. It's fabulous. If you want to learn a little bit more about mind control, especially when you're stressed, it's a really short one. I think only 20 minutes or so. Take a look. And some great podcasts specifically for the Lippert Academy for Leadership there, and Amber's podcast as well, Building Championship Mindsets for anyone in business world, your athletes, whatever. These are really great resources for you. All right. So with that, any questions? I know that we've had several things come through while I was talking. Chris or Ann, I'll let you run with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. This was great. And I know I've got a couple follow-up questions. Why don't you stop sharing your screen so we can go with everybody? And
Perfect.
we will, there we go. So now we can see everyone. That's awesome. Thank you again. I know during your talk that I had to catch myself. Oh, I'm not breathing, and just being reminded to breathe, I kind of relaxed and it moment. So I really appreciate everything you shared and your delivery of it. It made me feel calm.
Good.
And did you want to kick off any questions?
Sure, no problem. Well, one thing I wanted to share was when Kim and I first started chatting about doing this webinar, I was in one of those life storms of not being able to control my middle school son doing his homework, which is all online. And anytime I would hand him the laptop, he would be gaming. And she's like, okay, you just, think what you can control and what you can't control. You can control if he has the laptop. You can't control what he does when he has the laptop. So very easily, there's still a few battles, but it has reduced my stress because I'm like, you either are going to do your homework on your laptop with me or you don't get the laptop. And so I put it back on him to be able to figure out, one, he's really mad at me, but then two, he calms down and is like, okay, and I don't have to get to that level of screaming at him to do his homework. I'm like, okay, this is the situation. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
With three kids at home, there's only so much I can deal with. But then,
breathe.
Yeah, I know. I was breathing while you were talking. One thing is somebody had asked about this presentation will be put up for you after, and so you can see all the list of additional resources and sources she suggested. Another question I have is, how do you deal with like this virtual world we're in right now? So I know you talk about like, which I never heard of, like the body energy and the head energy, and what your heart gives off, like in this Zoom world. Like, yeah. How do you, if you're with someone and you can tell they're just, totally disconnected, what's your advice on that?
So I'm thinking, when we're in this virtual world, you probably can't feel my heart energy. I'm doing my best for you to feel it. I'm giving you lots of good juju right now. But one thing we can do, communication is made up of 3 different things, okay? 7% of it is words. I think it's like 38% of it is nonverbals. And the remaining percent, if I did that right, I think it might be 55%. I don't know. I think that's right, is body language. Yeah. Words, excuse me. The second one's tone of voice, and the last one is body language. And so if you see that and you're sensing someone like, or I get into meetings and people are like, and you can just you can see they're totally just mute. They don't want to even participate. We've had to get really, really creative with check-in questions. So if you could describe your storm, or you could describe your weather pattern for the day, tell me what your weather is. Well, today I feel like it's a rainy day and I'm not prepared for it. I forgot my umbrella. Like that's how I'm feeling today. There is another, I have a bunch of questions. I can actually send these to you, Ann, and we can share them too. But being able to engage people in different ways, which is not normal. I know I've seen, especially in the work world, I don't know what it's like in the school world, but we had really, really high engagement virtually. Like people were excited to collaborate, and then it sort of like plateaued, and now people hardly talk. And so being able to be creative and call people into the conversation and participate in the conversation earlier on in the conversation can really help. When it comes to that heart energy, I've noticed people, especially if it's a group, right? If you're noticing like one person is a little bit off, depending on your temperament, some people don't want to be called out in that session, right? But maybe just shoot them a text. Hey, is everything okay? Just thinking about you, right? Like that one-on-one relationship, people are more likely to tap into vulnerability and authenticity in that moment. So I'm candidly, I was taking a master's class just for fun. This is what I do. I love learning, right? In mindfulness, and it was so late for me here in Indiana, and I like kept not being able to, like, so I stopped like putting my video on, and I was just listening to the material. And I get a text message from a dear friend of mine, and she's like, "Are you all right? Like, you were really participating the first few classes, and now I don't even hear you." I'm like, honestly, this is so hard for me late at night. I have Zoom fatigue. I'm on video all day, every day. And I can't look at myself or other people or be actively engaging because my brain is clouds. Like, I have nothing left. There's nothing left. And so feeling like I was heard and felt in that moment just helped me, not even like, I didn't change my behavior or anything, but I just felt like I was heard, right? And I felt that someone else felt that heart energy. And I know that sounds kooky, it sounds fluffy, but they've actually done studies on this. I don't know if you've heard about, I did this in 8th grade at St. Isidore's, I believe. We did this science experiment of like 3 different plants. One we sang to, one we just watered normally, and one we yelled to. And it blew my mind. Like the one we yelled to completely died. The one we sang to like flourished. And the control, all in the same light, all the same sunlight and water and everything, but the one we sang to like totally grew. So like, what words are we telling our children? Are they helping our kids flourish, right? Or are we yelling and it's affecting their growth, right? And so I'm now in this, like, you know, I've been adulting for a while now, but we just started a garden, and I'm singing to all the plants and hoping that they will grow, just because I know it works. I did this in 8th grade. But these things really transfer, you know, this information, right. You know, this energy really does transfer. So,
right. No, so I got a few more questions. So we have a question. Do you have any suggestions to Zoom fatigue or screen fatigue to help ourselves or our kids?
Yeah. So I would first ask, what are the group norms of the groups that you're spending time with? Like, have you talked about this? And have we honestly talked to our teachers or our professors or the other people, like especially in the work world? I've actually mentioned, I've been on video all day today. Do you guys mind if I just disconnect and go on a walk and talk during this last meeting? Because my brain, like, you're going to get more of me when I'm walking. And most people are like, yeah, you go, girl, like, go outside. But of course, make sure that you have that relationship with your team. When it comes to teachers, I don't know what the policy is at Carondelet right now, so I don't want to, you know, ruffle feathers there, but I think that one-on-one conversation with the teacher to say, hey, social anxiety is a real thing right now, and being on video and being stuck in this little box and not being able to move, especially for some of our kids who might have ADD or ADHD or just feel like they need to multitask all the time. And if I move like this all the time during a class or being a participant, like, I don't feel like I'm okay, but like my body has all this energy and I need to maybe put either A, get the permission to move around, although it kind of can be distracting, right, to the rest of the group, or B, ask if I can put myself, like put the video off when I just need to start pacing or something around the house, because in my world, at least, if I was in a teaching position, I would rather my kids be engaged than feeling like they're stuck and not retaining any information. So we have some kinesthetic learners who need to be doing and moving. And if we don't give them the opportunity to do that, we're just having them sit here, they're going to lose everything. So I don't know if that's helpful or if we need additional information there.
Yeah. If I can add to that a little bit, we actually saw this very quickly at Carondelet. As you may know, Carondelet was really on the ball when it came to this current crisis and jumped right into online learning much faster than a lot of other schools. And
Oh,
We lost
it
you,
looks
was
Chris.
like
that our
we lost
students
Chris.
experienced.
You're back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh no,
We lost you.
sorry about that.
Right.
So I was just saying that we saw this at Carondelet in the first few weeks as we transition to online learning. And I think one of the most important things is to voice that. Yes, we can do something on our own. We can turn off the camera. We do all the things you just said, but we also need to have those conversations, whether it's at a school with the adults or also with the students. And I know our students felt very comfortable saying that after a couple of weeks. And we were really proud of them to voice that so that we could then make some changes, which we did do. So don't be afraid to bring that up with the people around you, the people you're working with, the people you're collaborating with, the people you're learning with, so that you can find the right balance.
Yeah.
Totally, Chris. And I would mention Zoom. They're actually started studies on Zoom fatigue. This is a real thing now, and I feel bad that Zoom is sort of the culprit, but like we use all sorts of things, Teams and Skype and all the culprits, right? One of the things that I've noticed, if you have a really good relationship and you're doing this at work, and you have a really good relationship with this person, just a simple text ahead of time saying, hey, you're right before my lunch. I need to get up. I haven't even had a chance to go to the restroom. Do you mind if we just do a phone call today? And people are always really forgiving there. Like, and I would encourage even just checking in with your kids saying, hey, I know that it sounds like Carondelet's done a really good job, but just check in with your kids. I've seen specifically here, we have a lot of kids who are doing remote university, college, and it's really, really hard for them. It's really hard to stay present. It's, we've got a lot of people are in finals this week, and some are even failing their classes because they can't even just focus on these screens all day. It's just so much harder to do school for some folks who do better in experiential learning, doing the thing with the people around them.
Right.
And it takes that conversation, it takes a little bit of courage. Step into the courage conversation and say, I need help. It's okay. I need help. Or I need to find a better way to do this because I'm not retaining this the way that I would. And we're spending a lot of money putting them through school, or maybe they have great scholarships, but we want them to utilize the experience to the best of their ability.
Right. Well, we have one comment. It says, hi, Kimmy. I find myself really lonely during this current situation. I feel like it's consuming me. Thank you for your suggestions. I feel better already, Christine.
Nice.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yay.
Hi, Christine. I'm glad you're here. It is easy to feel lonely, especially with what's going on. One thing that I will mention, I didn't say on the training today, but if you tap into all five senses, if we don't tap into all five senses, we feel more of the mundane and the loneliness and the depression than we normally would. But if you tap into the five senses that we do have, so I was reading an article about this. Normally, like our visual cues change a lot because we're driving to work, or we're coming back home, or we're driving to the grocery store, picking the kids up from school, or taking your dog to get the haircut or whatever. And when I do all of those things, my visual of the world is changing all the time. So I get stimulated there. Maybe I listen to music in the car, or I listen to an audiobook in the car. But now that we're kind of home, all of that's missing. Like the biggest challenge that I've coached all of my leaders through right now is I don't have my commute. I don't have my commute to decompress.
Yeah.
And so we've had to come up with really creative ways to replace that commute with, I'm not listening to the music that makes me happy anymore because I'm now home all the time. I have no time to listen to it. And so getting through all of those senses can be really helpful. I've recommended maybe doing some themed dinners at home that get you excited. Like if the smell of Thanksgiving dinner gets you excited, like do Thanksgiving in May, like just do it. Or if Christmas dinner gets you really excited, like celebrate Christmas in May, bring out like all the little Christmas decorations, like try to do something that stimulates your senses because we're seeing the same thing every day right now. We're hearing the same people. every day right now. And it just, we need that change. We're made for change. I was talking to one of our VPs last week, and I brought it back like all the way to the early hunters and gatherers. Even them, they picked up and moved. They were moving all the time, although their schedules were probably the same. You know, the wife did this and the husband did that, and the children had these roles and responsibilities. We still picked up and moved. We were nomadic by nature. And so tapping into all of those senses are really important. Another fun one is just take some of your favorite spices, boil them on the stove during the day, and just let that sort of aerate the house so you get a little bit of that smell. Play some music around the house too. So Christine, I'm glad you're able to join us. I'm sorry about the loneliness. You're not alone. I feel the same way. I think we all kind of feel that just a little bit. And I feel exhausted at the end of the day to even step outside of my normal circle to say, hey, how are you doing? Because I just don't have the energy. So just know you're not alone in all of that. And I'm glad you're here.
I'm going to try and sneak in one more question here before we wrap things up. One of the things I think that is interesting is, you know, we're in this moment of time where we're all focused so much on what happens now because of the crisis we're in now. But I think the conversation that is evolving around us is that this, I don't want to use the term new normal because I think that's an overused phrase, but I do believe that we will continue to face more rapidly situations like this, whether it is because of a health crisis or whether it's a financial crisis or whether it is a climate crisis, whatever that is. And so the question that I'd love for you to chat about a little bit is, with things coming more rapidly, times of change, how do we keep ourselves from going into shock?
Yeah, that change fatigue cycle, right? Like now we're going through rapid cycles of disorientation, the neutral zone, and reorientation, you know, so many times. Now more than ever, it's important to have a family rally cry. I call it a family rally cry. It's based off of Patrick Lencioni's, I think it's a book maybe, or I don't know where I got it from, but it's called The Rally Cry. And I can actually send, it's a free PDF, and it gives you like, you know, what makes our family unique, and like, let's define that. And then like, what are the things under our family, like the objectives at the end of the day that we feel really strongly about who we are as a family. So when everything is changing, we're rooted in our identity. It's very similar to Carondelet's amazing mission integration program of like making sure that all the things that the Sisters of St. Joseph brought to the table are sort of implemented in interspersed in the Carondelet experience. The same thing, if we don't have our identity, oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, awesome. That's perfect. So yes, so being able to sit down and do this as a family activity grounds us that every time there's a rapid change, like root ourselves back into our identity, like who we are, what we stand for, you know, as a child of God, if you believe in a specific faith, right? But maybe you have a family rally cry, and we've been talking, I literally gave 2 trainings on this today at work. Do this for work, give yourself a short-term rally cry of like, these are the things we're really focused on right now in this world that we're in, but like also create a vision, like where do we want to be as a family, like through all of this, and we're at the end of our lives and we're looking back, who were we, and are we happy with what we chose to be in that moment, right? Did we let all of those things go? Like, do I really remember the amount of hours that I studied, you know, as a pre-med major in college? No, I don't, but I remember the one time that we went apple picking, right? So like, did I make those moments and choose those moments, right? So I think, so while that doesn't help with the change fatigue per se, what ends up happening in the change cycle, I don't know if you remember, it had disorientation, the neutral zone, and then reorientation. Anytime people are really disoriented and stuck in that neutral zone where you feel like, I don't know where, I'm not where I was before, and so that feels foreign, but I don't know where I'm going, and that feels foreign, and that keeps happening really rapidly, like it's changing again, and I don't know where I'm going. We actually do an identity exercise. Like that loss of identity is so crucial to our sanity, to the way and purpose that we show up with. And so that's why I use that rally cry idea, because, or create a mission statement. There's a great book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks a little bit about the process in there as well. I think it's by Stephen Covey. And he talks a little bit about having like a personal mission statement, But those things then ground us and remind us who we are, because like, what ends up happening is everything becomes unstable. Like when massive life events happen, the things that we identify with ourselves, like our role, our job titles, our roles as parents or whatever, and things shift and we get all frustrated, we lose a sense of like control, right? We talked about control before. We lose a sense of control of what those things have over us. Or the power that we have, right, is in our identity and how we define ourselves. And the last little piece I'd say about that is in that rally cry concept, post it, like put it everywhere. Like I actually write these things on like my mirrors in the bathroom. So when I'm, brushing my teeth, I can't not look at these things to remind me of who I am. And I have all these Bible quotes and stuff. And just like to remind me of the person that I want to be, surround myself with all that information, because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I'm also the average of all the words that I see all day. So behind my computer, I have all of these like quotes that I know that give me a little bit of spark, a little bit of energy, a little bit of joy and direction in small moments. But that has to be coupled with self-care or compassion or being able to trust other people and be vulnerable to say, hey, I need help. This is a lot of change and I need help. And so the second challenge that I see with other people right now is they're fearful of losing their jobs, but now they're wearing 10 hats because they need to, or maybe in the home front, they're wearing a million hats and taking on all the chores because the husband's working extra hours just to keep his job. And you're burning out, right? And we need a little bit of help. Don't be afraid to ask for help right now. We really need to ask for help. And I am the biggest culprit of this. I'm a helper by nature. I want to help everybody else. And my significant other, he'll come to me and be like, what do you need? I'll be like, I don't know. He was like, you need something because you're like in the clouds. Like, what do you need? And I have to like sit there and think about, oh, can you put away the dishes? Like it takes me time to think about like what to delegate because I naturally will just do it myself. So get into the habit of being in the family with that rally cry and then also asking for help. I hope that's helpful.
I love it. That's great. I love the family rally cry. We're gonna try it tomorrow here in around the table. That's great. Well, we're gonna actually wrap things up, but we do have a few things before we wrap up. But thank you again, Kim. We'll come back and thank you in a minute. But why don't you guys both stay on? Ann and Kim, you can stay on. I'm just gonna share my screen to make it real simple here for everybody. And but obviously, the first thing is that we wanted to thank Kim for a fantastic, thought-provoking, supportive talk this evening. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure Ann did as well. And we can't thank you enough for taking time out. And I think you're a wonderful example of living out the Carondelet mission and a wonderful mentor and guide to all of our current students. And I'm sure all of our families really appreciate it. So thank you. And thank you, Ann, as well, for putting this all together and making this happen. I know that you're always on the lookout for other alum that we have out there to share their wisdom with us. And so thank you for doing that. A couple of other quick notes and thank yous. Thank you also to our Carondelet families and to our donors who make everything that we do possible at the school, especially bringing new information and knowledge sort of experiences to the world, not just to the Carondelet community like this. Making those things possible. So thank you very much for all of your support. One just announcement for everybody is, you may not know it, but Camp Carondelet is still happening. We may be one of the only camps in town happening in the Walnut Creek, Concord, Pleasant Hill area this summer. A number of other camps have already canceled. Rec departments are canceling things, but we have official word. We just heard yesterday that Camp Carondelet is happening. The dates are probably going to shift around a little bit, and some of the activities are shifting around. But this is just a reminder that if your kids are looking for something to do this summer, we're going to have a number of great activities for them to do on campus at both of our campuses, the main campus as well as the Carondelet Athletic Complex. So look for information online on the Carondelet website for that, and sign up soon, and note some of the changes that'll be announced soon. And then lastly, if you want to hear more about events like this, we're planning to do a lot more webinars and face-to-face presentations at Carondelet once the campus reopens again. Please follow us on social media, whichever social media channel you like the best. Follow us there, and so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening at the school, as well as with our students and our alumni. Again, thank you to Kim. Thank you for taking your time out to share your expertise with us. I'm actually going to stop my screen here and see if Ann has any closing words for us.
I don't know if I have closing words besides really from the heart thanking you for this. I think anybody who participated, I believe from the text message I was getting on my personal phone about, oh my gosh, she's great, I needed this. I'm hoping that we can put this up and we can push this out to the people who weren't able to make it, and really take it to heart what you've said and try to figure out some ways to just personal happiness through some of these things would be great.
Absolutely. And just remember, we're all in this together. I mean, this is not a journey we should be taking alone. So I'm glad. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Always here. If you have another topic, we've got plenty of them. So
thanks for staying up so late.
Yeah. And I loved your idea of doing Thanksgiving in May. It's almost exactly 6 months away. So, maybe we need to do a virtual Thanksgiving here. I'll bring the turkey.
Yeah. Practice the gratitude, right? With all of the Thanksgiving fixins. Love
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. We're going to officially close out our webinar here. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes, but thank you to everybody who joined us this evening. We know, again, you have lots of things that you can possibly do with screens and computers and TVs these days. Everything's streaming, and we're very, very fortunate that you decided to spend some time with us tonight. And we thank you for giving us your attention and giving us the opportunity to share some of Kim's wisdom with you. So thank you, everybody.